And welcome into yet another episode of Devil Dash. I'm Wills, joined by Josh here. We got quite a lot that's happened since the last episode. Well, actually, we did last episode on Tuesday, but as you know, Baylor are national champions. The big news that went down. Actually, we don't even have on the docket to talk about, so we can talk about it off the jump. Sean Miller is gone from the University of Arizona. We didn't even bring that up in our pre-show meeting, but. It's awesome for a lot of ASU fans. I know he is very despised here in the Valley, and the most recent example we have of that is when the allegations first came out, and I don't actually know if it was a young reporter, but a ASU reporter in Tucson asked him a question, and he infamously answered no comment. He said something. I don't want to quote this exactly, but you can pack your bags and go back to Phoenix. And I remember that quote was played a lot throughout for us journalists here in Phoenix and Tempe. But Josh, what are your initial thoughts? Sean Miller gone from U of A, good, bad, or what for ASU?
Well, I think this is, it's only a good thing. Less competition, less, the statue of coaching over there in Tucson now because he's gone. I think hopefully the best way we benefit from this, situation that's unfolded in front of us is that we get a better handle on the Arizona recruiting. Sean Miller, I'm not, too positive or too sure on how his splits and, who differs from, Arizona and, out of state compared to ASU. But I know that, Arizona has had better recruiting classes in basketball without a doubt for the past, at least 5, 6, 7 years. You know their history much more than I do, but you could attest to that. And hopefully a lot more guys that play basketball in Arizona look to ASU and not the Sean Miller powerhouse Pac-12 basketball program, if you will, because they're still going to have nice facilities, great fans, but that whole Sean Miller, just vibe and era of his is gone through the window, and they're looking for another new coach. That stigma, they're not going to forget that stigma around paying their players and the FBI and all that. That stigma is going to stay around that program for some time, and they're going to preach every year at the beginning. We got to forget about it or something like that because people are going to bring it up, especially when they come to Tempe. I don't know. I'll be sitting there with the FBI sign if I get a ticket. I don't care. I love it. But yeah, I think this is nothing but good things come from this, at least for Arizona State.
Yeah, and it's the thing behind Sean Miller is not his ability to coach. It's his ability to coach once he gets into the tournament. I mean, his ability to recruit has been fantastic. His ability to run the Pac-12 really. I mean, it seems like for the past, 5 to 10 years, it's been, Oregon, U of A, and that's pretty much it. Competing for it every year. There's one team that might have a great season here and there. The Colorados have had, good 3 years here, and, ASU's had a good 1 or 2 years here, but
none is consistent.
Yeah, consistently as a program. And, Sean Miller really, I forgot the name of even the guy, and I hated them then, but, in between when Lute Olson retired, and then they had a really bad period where ASU was the better basketball school in Arizona, and then they hired Sean Miller to really revive that program. And the question I have for them now is that program still what Lute Olson built? Does it still have the pedigree of being one of the? I mean, I wouldn't put U of A in the same blue blood category as the Kentuckys, the Dukes, as they might have been there 10 years ago, but I don't think they're there now. So the firing of Sean Miller, I think, has a lot to do with these legal reasons that, they kind of backed them for the last 2 years. But I don't know how much better they're going to get. Some of the names, like, you're not going to get Mark Few. The name Mark Few. U of A fans are delusional if you think you're getting Mark Few.
Yeah.
They want his assistant, but then again, you're taking an assistant off a guy who's never won a national championship. That doesn't seem very blue blood caliber to me. So, getting a Damon Stoudemire or someone like that would make a little more sense. But again, is that better? Is that a step up from Sean Miller? I don't think so. So AFC fans, I think we're sitting in some good waters right now until they announce, a signing of like a Mark Few, or I heard the name Eric Musselman from Arkansas today. That would scare me. As an ASU fan, I do not want to see that man in Tucson. Eric Musselman is a fantastic coach. Look what he did at Nevada. Nevada is not a good basketball program. He brought Caleb and Cody Martin there, and they were five-year players that, they dominated that conference, and I want to say made the tournament 3, 4, maybe even 5 years. That is not a guy I want to see in Arizona.
Yeah, I mean, hopefully we get someone, or an opponent coach that's, less caliber than that dude just building programs left and right. But yeah, I think it'll be interesting to see. The replacement coming in is going to have some big shoes to fill, especially when he's not, throwing money at players. That makes it a lot harder. Like, unless you're Sean. No, I'm just kidding. I'm sorry. But yeah, I think they'll be pretty harsh on him to begin with because of, the culture that kind of has the winning culture that's been established. And, the Pac-12 is not going to get a whole lot better next year, but, we should see some quality competition from them still. You know how Pac-12 games go.
It's always a dogfight. Even if you're a good team, it seems the Pac-12, the saying is, always cannibalizes itself, when it comes to the college football playoff or whether it comes to bubble teams trying to make it for March Madness. It always seems like it never goes the Pac-12's way, except for this year. But talking about Pac-12, we're going to start with basketball. We went on a little tangent there about the U of A, but what would you give this basketball team's off-season grade so far?
I'd have to go with, somewhere in the middle of the road, probably right now, maybe a B plus, just kind of because of how quick Bobby Hurley has, already seemed to have turned this team around. Seemed to have.
I'm going to give it a C because here's why I give it that. C's get degrees is the saying. C is a passing grade, and I give Bobby Hurley that. It's a passing grade. But when you look at, you're losing Remy Martin, you're probably losing Alonzo Verge, you're probably losing Marcus Bagley. You lost Josh Christopher. Okay, so there's 4 of your starters from last year. I don't really care unless you're bringing in another top 15 to top 10 recruiting class like you did last year. Which, breaking news, he's not doing that this year. I'm sorry. I'm pretty sure signing day already passed, and if good recruits saw what we did last season, they're not going to be intrigued now if they haven't committed already. So, I don't know how much better they're going to be next year. If anything, I think we're going to take quite a step back. This Marion Jackson guy, the guy from Toledo, I think is going to be a huge question mark. If he could be kind of that, Alonzo Verge type, scorer, because it seems like ASU's always struggled to have those guys that could create their own shots. They have the Cody Justices of the world that were, great sharpshooters, but that's somebody you want coming off a screen and hitting an open shot with a quick jumper. They haven't had anyone since, Jermaine Marshall, rest in peace, but, he was one of the ones that could create, his own shot playing with Jahi Carson and, some of these other guys, but it's tough. Seeing Marion, I'm not going to lie and tell you I've watched Toledo games, but, averaging 18 points, 6 rebounds, and 6 assists with 2 steals, that sounds like someone who shouldn't be playing at Toledo, that needs to be playing at a Power 5 level school. That's someone that sounds like they're ready. They're not a freshman. They've played college basketball and are ready to play in the Power 5 big name school. So I'm really excited for him. Still, you can't expect him to average 18 points at ASU, but I'm hoping he's someone that's able to create his own shot at the 2, maybe a little bit better than Josh Christopher.
I was literally just about to say he might average more points than Josh Christopher.
It's tough. It's really tough.
And I mean, I could totally see that happening too because, we talked about this a lot before in the past on our shows. Maybe this isn't. Maybe Bobby Hurley doesn't need that. Top 15 overall recruiting class. Maybe he wants just the kind of little, not the little guys, but the less sought after recruits. The transfers here and there, the Toledo, Boston College transfers, things like that. Guys that might already have that underdog mentality brewing in them. We saw Bobby try and coach, all these recruits this year. And, it didn't turn out well. A lot of things didn't turn out well. We're not going to, put this all on Bobby because there's no way, you can do that. But, I thought this was, probably the just weirdest situation and weirdest coaching we've seen from Bobby Hurley, in his time here with the class that he was given. And I think, this next year we can only, especially coming back from COVID, I think it can only kind of go up, because last year was a mess.
And I don't want to sound like woe is me, everything bad happens to us, but like I'm kind of going to sound exactly like that. Like as ASU fans, football, we really thought we had a shot to compete with USC for a title this year. And really, with the schedule that was dealt to us, that first loss of the season, really were counted out from the very beginning. Our season was over then, which, in a normal year, if you're playing a 12-game schedule and you lose week 1 to USC, you still have a great shot. They still have to probably play Oregon. They still probably have to play Utah on the road. Where in this year they've had like maybe one other tough game, against it was really just kind of
no room for error.
And then we got dealt with COVID and had a 2-week break, and then the basketball team had injuries, and then Remy Martin had to sit out with COVID, because not even because he had COVID, but he went to a family member's funeral, and protocol made him sit out another 2 weeks.
Contact
stuff like that, where it just seems like ASU got dealt some pretty tough cards. And I feel like we didn't even get into football here, but basketball isn't really just football. Kind of had a tough season, and it sucks for them because they had a tough season. But I feel like basketball could be facing some longer term repercussions here. Not necessarily really bad, but I'm a little bit nervous for this team next year, because they're not going to be on paper as good as this team was last year, and this team was not very good. So something needs to change. Hopefully, it was irregularities with the schedule and not having fans in the buildings. Remy Martin was a straight energy player that fed off the fans. So I'm hoping there's some answers to it, but that's why I just have a lot of questions going into this basketball season, and I'm going to give it a C. We don't really have a ton of time to get into football, and I know football's actually, they've been practicing, but they didn't really have a huge recruiting class coming into this year. They just brought back a ton of players. Really quickly, what would you give this football grade? I know we're going to get into football in the next segment as well, so what would you just give me as a grade for the offseason?
Yeah, well, I mean, I saw a tweet today from, an ESPN analyst checking out Rashad White.
I saw that exactly. Yeah, we didn't even talk about
I'm blanking on his name.
It was Louis Riddick.
Louis, yes.
But yeah, probably be a future GM. Mark my words. Louis Riddick, he'll be a GM in the next 5 years.
Genius.
Monday night.
Shout out to his kid too. He goes to.
No, I think you have a Ryan.
Oh
Clark.
yeah,
Ryan Clark. Which I think him and Louis Riddick are very close friends, but and they both work as ESPN analysts. But Louis Riddick is the guy that does. He's the new Monday Night Football guy who is does it with is it Steve Levy? I think it is.
So.
Yeah, and he's a fantastic, very insightful. And he was I'm going to try to pull up the tweet, but I think he was looking at film of Jaden Daniels, because Jaden Daniels is going to be a junior, and this is going to be his last year in college, most likely. And he was
just taken aback by our backfield.
He said that number 3, which he's talking about, Rashad White, he was watching film on Eno Benjamin and got distracted by how great this film. The exact quote is, "These young underclassmen running backs, man. Now number 3, Rashad White from at ASU football, has distracted me from watching who I had planned on watching." And with the little shrug emoji, assuming he was probably talking about Jaden Daniels. And it's the video of Rashad White taking that 60-yard swing pass against USC to the house. I agree. These young running backs. I saw this exact tweet. Go on and expand.
Well, yeah. I mean, just from looking at that, already seeing some upscale exposure. That's a very well respected man in this industry, and I'm gonna go with I like to keep it even. I like to show love to both of my children. I'm gonna give it with a B. Again, I think Herm's made some slight adjustments over the offseason, like every good coach does. I'm not super specific, but I know everyone's gonna be fired up and wanting to play a lot better season than last, and they're definitely gonna have a little redemption in their heads going into these games.
Yeah, I think ASU football, as I just talked about basketball, being in a kind of a sticky situation with how these repercussions of having a bad team this year is already reflected on their recruiting class for next year. The recruiting class took a huge step down from last year. Whereas if we saw ASU in the Sweet 16 this year, definitely say, wow, this is a program on the rise. Bobby Hurley has something cooking there, and we would probably have another top 15 class again. And next year it's quick. So it's this football team. I think was really as I would expect a Herm Edwards coach team is hey, we had a really tough year, but you bet your butt we're going to be back next year competing for that Pac-12 title. And, he got, I'm not going to say lucky, but outside of Frank Darby and Jack White, pretty much everyone important on this team is coming back next year. And was it Jack White that got suspended on the team?
Jack Jones.
Or Jack Jones. Sorry, when he got suspended, is that it was one of the safeties that got suspended.
It was both of them at one point.
But one of the safeties left the program, I believe.
I think it was Jack Jones.
I want to say because
we're
thinking on it.
Our 4-star, and we lost him. And the other guy that I think it was Ashari Crosswell that was. They left the team. Both of them did for off the field reasons. Well,
I know Chase Lucas is coming back for another year, but sorry, we shouldn't be thinking on air here. But offensively, Frank Darby's gone, but again, he really did nothing this last year, and I don't think he's going to be. Obviously, he's going to be missed with his leadership and his character that he brought in these post-game interviews and all of that, but. On the field, I think we have a lot of talent that was waiting to explode last year. I mean, we saw a lot out of the backfield with, Rashad White and Chip Trayanum. And I really like Trayanum almost more than White. But
I do.
Their tandem skills that they brought together are great. And I really feel like Jaden Daniels not necessarily underimpressed because I think we know what he was capable of and the cards he was dealt. But I want to say he underperformed because if he expects to be, the third or fourth quarterback taken in the draft behind, Slovis and maybe one other next year, he's going to need to put. I know people like Trey Lance only played one game this year, and he's probably going to go number, 3 or 4, maybe to Atlanta. That's what I was looking at Lewis Riddick's Twitter. He was saying Trey Lance to Atlanta, but I think Jaden Daniels has had the we're on that roller coaster of the tick tick tick, and it's going slow, but. We're waiting for that huge, that big momentum, not necessarily drop back down. That's not what I was. But we're waiting for that big, takeoff. That's basically what I'm saying. We've been building up the fuel cannons. We're ready to take off, like we're on the runway. And I think that's what Jaden Daniels needs to do this year. And I think that's why they're going to compete with USC.
Yeah, I think we can compete with USC. I think the big thing from last year was, at the beginning of the year, you saw Jaden Daniels thrown into a massive amount of pressure, with a very new, offensive system, a system that he had not had any, live game, not counting spring ball, live run-throughs, under his belt. And, after the 2-3 games, he did get his initial practice in. We go on a month or two COVID break, not 2 months, but
2 weeks.
2 weeks of, stop everything, just stop all your progress. Don't do anything. Go quarantine for, 14 days. And then after the break, after we came back and played, some really good football against U of A and Oregon State, which was a great game. Jaden Daniels looked comfortable in the driver's seat, and I think you're going to see a lot more of that. Next season, he's going to have a lot more games, a little more room for error, and this is, whether he likes it or not, this is his last chance to, prove that he can be, the top 4, top 3 quarterback in the draft. Because if he doesn't prove that this year, I think, people are just jumping off the boat. Do you blame him?
I think it's pretty obvious the quarterbacks next year. I say obvious. Keaton Slovis, Sam Howell out of UNC, and then I'm gonna butcher this name. DJ Ugagalele out of Clemson. He was the guy that filled in for Trevor Lawrence and put up 450 yards and 6 touchdowns at a loss.
Awesome.
Unreal. Seems like those teams never never have it tough. They always just have the next number 1 overall pick. But I was looking at a depth chart right here. It's Evan Fields, Jack Jones, and Chase Lucas are all projected to come back next year. So Ashari Crosswell, who is a good player, but nothing. I'd rather have Jack Jones than Chase Lucas. So yeah, it's.
I don't. Chase Lucas is.
I mean, when it comes to when I say some of these names, the Rashad White, Chip Trayanum, Jaden Daniels, Ricky Pearsall,
they're just more resounding.
Johnny Wilson. I'm trying to find Curtis Hodges is coming back next year.
Johnny Wilson. step it up.
DJ Davidson, Jermaine Lole, some of these, the Merlin Robertson, Kyle Soley, Jack Jones, Chase Lucas. These are all names that ASU fans are familiar with because these are players that made plays last year. These aren't just, he got in on third downs. This year it's his time to start. These are players that were productive last year for ASU, are pissed off about how last season went. And, we went 2-2 last year. We weren't even close to the Pac-12 South title. It's pretty easy to forget that we dominated USC for 57 minutes of that game. 57 out of 60 minutes on the road in the Coliseum. I know there was no fans, so in the Coliseum doesn't mean as much. In the first week. But we were the better team in that game for 57 minutes. They recovered an onside kick. They had a tipped pass for a touchdown.
Luckiest Brew McCoy catch.
Yeah, so many things went right for them. So many things went wrong for the Sun Devils. So, that was the Pac-12. That was the Pac-12 South champion last year. I know they ended up losing to Oregon, anyways, because USC's a bunch of chokers. But it's tough. I think ASU is going to be very good. I think this football team is going to be a lot better than this basketball team next year. And I'm going to say this: if they come out and come in second place in the Pac-12, I'm going to call that season a disappointment next year. And not in the Pac-12, Pac-12 South. I'm expecting them for the first time in a long time to be the Pac-12 South winners. Utah's having a down year. Colorado's probably not going to be the best. They lost a lot of their good players.
Clay Helton's going to Clay Helton.
Clay Helton's going to Clay Helton. And it's time for people to figure out why Keaton Slovis was a 3-star recruit.
Over under Keaton Slovis, 10 interceptions in the year.
Over. Okay, speaking of that, is it time for the Pac-12 to get a little respect?
I think so. America, let us know in the chat.
And this is talking about basketball and football, by the way.
Look, at the end of the day,
we have two. Sorry,
they can't say anything. We are the conference of champions. Just don't even try and argue with me. Go talk to my guy Bill Walton. He'll chirp your ear off about conference of champions.
And I actually did miss two questions. One saying, will Holland Woods returns from Austin grad? I think he is returning next year. I think that was the plan.
I think so.
Because during the senior night that they had, I'm pretty sure the players that were honored were Remy Martin, Alonzo Verge, and Kamani Lawrence were the three honored at senior night, which I think Holland Woods knew coming the entire time that he was going to come back for another year. So that's what I assume. And then another question, who will win a conference title first, basketball or football? And that's from Independent R2. I personally believe football. I think next year, like I said, Oregon's going to be really good. They're always really good, especially with that coaching job up there. I think we're going to be better than USC next year. I think really with a full season, hopefully with some fans in Sun Devil Stadium, I really think that we're going to be better than USC next year. And I thought last year I called them. I know I'm definitely biased when I say this, but I said that they could beat. There's no reason that they couldn't go undefeated with the schedule they're given. Obviously, the cards that were dealt were extremely difficult. They shouldn't have lost to USC in the first round, or in the first game. Sorry, not first round. But things went differently. This year is, like I said, they're reloaded with the exact same talent, pretty much the exact same talent. And, they should expect to win. USC lost quite a lot of good players. Vera Tucker, if I'm getting that right, is getting
Brown.
Yeah, getting drafted. Brown's going to get drafted. They had that linebacker that I'm pretty sure is getting drafted. So, they're losing some pretty key players. Obviously, Keaton Slovis is still there, so that's all you need. But, USC is going to be good. ASU is going to be good. Oregon should be good. Outside of that, football-wise, I'm not sure Washington. Since Chris Peterson's left, I don't know how much better that program's going to get. They're usually pretty good, so I want to throw some respect their way because they've earned that over the last 5 to 7 years. They've been to a college football playoff. Come on. So in the Pac-12 South, though, I don't think Utah is going to be all that great next year. The ASU always seems to struggle with them for some reason. Colorado, I don't think is going to be all that great. U of A went, 0-8 last year, so I don't think they're going to. Sumlin's gone. I know Coach Jed Fish has been, the culture that he's building, involving alumni, all this stuff. But how awesome can it be to involve alumni when you're two good alumni, Teddy Bruschi and Rob Gronkowski? But other than that, you don't have that many good alumni. Scooby Wright was a great college player, but it's not like he's respected in the NFL ranks all that much. It's a lot of your good players aren't really all that respected. I don't know how much that culture is going to help cultivate winning. So we'll see about U of A, and then UCLA, DTR coming back for one more run. Wait, he is coming back, correct? I don't want to say that.
I think so. I mean, it makes sense if he is, because was he a junior last year?
Yes, he is. He is. Yeah, he was a junior in 2020, but after junior year, you are eligible.
Right.
He went to Bishop Gorman. I didn't know that. Out of Las Vegas, that high school powerhouse. But I think UCLA actually should be pretty good. I kind of forgot about them. Just having athletic quarterbacks in the Pac-12. This isn't like the SEC where if Matt Corral was in, if he went to Oregon State would probably be pretty dang good.
Yeah, I mean, we saw how he handled our defense when we played UCLA this year.
I mean, that game again. That was our first game. Them and Cal were our first two games, from COVID. Right. So, it's so difficult to judge football on last season, considering they played 4 games. I mean, that's literally not. Where basketball, I know they had a lot going on, but they still ended up playing close to 25 games. I was 23 to 25 games. I think they finished like 10 and 14 or something like that. So they don't get as much of an excuse as not finding an identity, where football just seemed to get hit in the face by a frying pan. I think there should be 4 to 5 respectable teams in the Pac-12, but the thing that they need is the ASU, Oregon, or ASU, Oregon, or USC to whichever one is going to win the Pac-12. They need to be a 0 or 1 loss team. Exactly, dominate. I think that's the correct word. And when it comes to the Pac-12 South, I think it's going to be the winner of that USC-ASU game. Like, we kind of talked about that last year with it being the first game of the season. I would love to see it be, one of the last games of the season where these teams both have combined records in the Pac-12. Let's say they're both 1 loss or both 0 loss, and the winner of this game, could decide a top 7 spot, where the winner of the Pac-12 tournament game or Pac-12 championship game, you can't deny them from a bid. And that's what I would love to see. ASU, Oregon, and USC all ranked in the top 15 come the end of the year, where these games matter, and if you win, it's a huge resume booster. And I think this is the year we saw with basketball where people are like, all right, maybe the Pac-12 isn't such a pushover. Right. I think this is football's turn to kind of prove that.
And just kind of piggybacking off of that point, I think it needs to be more teams that aren't just USC and UCLA. You know what I mean? Because everybody knows Oregon, but I guarantee you half the people that know Oregon couldn't tell you what conference it's there in. That's just your average, I know the Oregon Ducks fan. You know what I mean? And that's sad. That's just sad because that's the conference that we were in. The regular fans aren't going to go name off every team in the SEC, but they're going to know a couple, and that's all it takes. When you look at those general fans like that, that's the big disparity of what known and like well known.
The reason why I think it has to be an ASU, Oregon, or USC is because we know very well that I don't even know if I would throw ASU in this group, because I want to assume USC and Oregon are probably going to be the only 2 preseason ranked. But preseason ranks matter, especially when you're playing in the Pac-12. Well, no, not that people like that, but
at that.
If you start at number 20 overall and then you start off 5-0, you're probably going to be number 7 overall at that point. Where if you're ASU and you're starting out unranked and you go 5-0, you might be number 19 at that point. Where if your ultimate goal is to play in a college football playoff, the preseason rankings matter. So as much as we are tired of seeing the Oregon and USC's be good, we haven't seen them win a championship. We saw USC win 1 Rose Bowl. We saw Oregon get embarrassed in this year's Fiesta Bowl here in Phoenix. So it's like, I'm not really tired of that. I want to see Oregon win. I'm tired of this. How many national championships does Oregon have? This many.
Brock Purdy.
I want to see Oregon win. I really don't want to see USC win one, but I want to see the Pac-12 get some dang respect. And if USC is a top 5 team and they run over another top 10 team in ASU on the way to do it, I am not going to be mad. That is how the Pac-12 will build its name back up to greatness again.
Yeah, and that's the best chance that we're going to get, especially next season. And if we're just talking about this ASU team, the football team, this is our peak. Last year was the basketball peak. Nothing happened. This year is the football peak. This is our last year with Jaden. Train him. Who knows what's going to happen, especially this season he could have due to his ceiling is, limitless. I mean, man, I can't wait. We have to wait so long. And we're probably, let's be honest, we would probably going to be disappointed. Arizona sports, baby.
I really hope not, because I think this year, as we said in I'm just getting deja vu all over. Like, as we said in basketball, this team should be one of the best that we've seen in a long time, football-wise, for ASU. So we saw how that went with basketball. We'll see how it goes for football. That is unfortunately all the time we have today. Thank you. I'm Wills for Josh. We want to make sure you guys give us a follow on social media. That's at Dash Sports TV. Our socials are on the screen. You can check out our website at www.dashsports.tv. We should be back next week for yet another episode, almost up on 30 episodes of Devil Dash. We thank you for everyone that watches, and we will see you guys next week. Thank you.